All right, it is time for wellness. Now, we'll be discussing the topic Real Men Don't Cry, Fatherhood and Depression with Dr. Obi Aloma Nade. She is fondly known as Radio Doctor, and her journey into mental health advisory started in 2018, inspired by her personal battle with postpartum depression. Now, Obi is renowned for her unrelenting passion, extensive knowledge, and practical approach to addressing various health challenges. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Edgar. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Now, I was just reading about you, and I heard that you've experienced postpartum depression.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
Well, I would say it was like, first of all, whenever people ask me this question, my response is, it was like screaming in a room full of people and nobody could hear me. It was like me trying to find my way in a very dark room.
Wow.
Because number one, my first son is 15.
Okay.
So my first experience with postpartum depression was 2008,
Okay.
I think. 2009, rather. And I didn't even know what was going on with me, because the typical symptoms of maternal postpartum depressions are signs like withdrawal, difficulty bonding with your baby, which I had. I mean, all my life, I saw my mom, my sisters, all the women around me. Once the baby, was here, once the baby arrived, everybody was happy, and I was expecting same. And then my baby is here, and I'm like, okay, when am I going to be happy? When am I going to be excited? And I did not feel any of that, and I was unable to, talk to anybody for close to 3 months. So I dealt with that.
For 3
for
months.
the fear of the stigma that comes with it.
All right. So the topic today is on the paternal side.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's interesting because we live in a society where men are told to be strong, men are told to be bold, men cannot cry. I remember growing up, my mom would tell me, you better not cry, you're not a woman. So it means that there's some form of responsibility the society has created for a man. And my mom will always say, you're a real man. Real men don't cry.
Don't cry, exactly.
So my question is, how do you really define a real man? What makes a man real?
Okay, Edgar, thank you. This is a very, very interesting question. And I will answer by sharing a story.
All right, cool.
So about 4 or 5 years ago, this woman, she comes to me, she says, look, I need you to speak to my husband. I do not understand what is going on with him. And she goes on to share her story. She says, as her due date, she was pregnant at the time this happened. As her due date was approaching, she insisted that her husband was going to be with her in the delivery room. And the husband was pleading with her from the first day. But guess what? The husband could not tell her why. He just said to her, please, do not allow me go into this delivery room with you and all of that. And she was upset. And she discussed with her friends. Her friends were like, what do you mean? What do you mean by your husband? Is he not the one that got you pregnant? He has to be in there with you. So eventually he goes into this labor room into the delivery room rather with his wife. The baby arrives. And then she notices a change, a drastic change. He's withdrawn from family life. He doesn't want to have anything to do with the baby.
Okay.
And this is a husband that is hands-on with domestic chores, and very present in family life. He's angry a lot of the times. He's irritable. And she's like, what's going on? It even impacted their love life.
Wow.
It went beyond that to, their love life and all of that. And then she even had to go to the family. They called a family meeting. And the man said, I just don't want to have anything to do with my wife or the baby for now. And so when we got talking with the man, we discovered that this man had a history of there was post-traumatic stress disorder going on because he was involved in an accident that involved a lot of blood, and all of that, about 5 years before he got married. Now, he had not received any form of counseling, right? So for any time he was in an environment where there was, a lot of blood or people were in pain or stuff, it kind of triggered post-traumatic stress.
But this is leading to my next question, because how do you differentiate between post-traumatic stress or disorder from financial burden? Because there are some men that, the reason why they're unhappy is because they realize that the cost of diapers, the cost of paying for medical, requirements is on the high side, and they have to do this continuously. So how do you really differentiate that? This one is not even a problem. It's just the man that is having the issue with his money.
Okay, this is another interesting question. And it takes me to the point where I need to define mental health and mental illness. So what is mental health? First off, we all have mental health, right?
Okay.
Mental health is a state of mental well-being that determines how we think, feel, and act.
Wow.
It helps us realize our abilities. It helps us with decision-making. It helps us perform our day-to-day tasks. So it is just your state of mind at the time.
Okay.
Now, mental illness is a broad range of mental health disorders. Just like you have physical illness, you have malaria, you have cancer, you have all of that. It's the same way you have mental health disorders and all of that. So you said, how can you differentiate? Now, the difference is when a man is having financial struggles, which is just more of a temporal situation.
Sometimes it could be for a long while.
Yeah, okay,
because you still have to pay school fees.
Well, that's true. And
then sometimes, you don't really, at the end of the day, you don't determine how many children. Imagine you're someone who has just planned, you've done your family planning, and you just want one.
Absolutely.
Only for your wife to not give birth to 7.
Thank you.
Where do you start from
Edgar.
there?
So let's now go to the topic of today, which is paternal postpartum depression. So what is paternal postpartum depression? That's a type of depression that affects dads with newborns, right? Yes, it's characterized by symptoms like withdrawal, irritability, anger, risk-taking behavior like substance or alcohol abuse, and all of that. So this brings me to your question. What are the causes? Because people will always ask, what causes depression? I mean, the birth of a baby in our society should be a joyful occasion, right? So nobody's expecting you to feel sad and all of that. So the causes, some of first, science suggests that sometimes it has to do with the man's hormones. So a sharp drop in testosterone, if I pronounce that correctly, can impact a man's state of mind, you see. But it is more of social and psychological factors. So social factors like a father who is struggling, who does not have the financial wherewithal. In fact, I know a dad who already has 6 kids, and then his wife comes one morning and she says she's pregnant. This man sank into serious depression. Because he was bearing the financial burden, right? And he was already struggling with 6 kids. So this is financial low income can impact a man's mental health, a man's state of mind when he has a new baby. Dads who have babies with birth defects, this can impact a man's mental health. Age can impact, either the dad is too young. And is not ready, or he has gone past the age of childbearing, or has decided he doesn't want any more kids, or unplanned pregnancy, or the quality of the relationship with dad and mom. Things like this. All these things can impact or tend to impact a man's mental health. Just like I shared, the story I shared, a previous or ongoing history of mental health problems like depression.
But is it not funny that most of these problems or most of the topic here, they all have men in front of them? You have mental problem, mental health, mental disorder, men. Like, I mean, why? All right, but another serious question is, there are some men that would rather pray about their struggles than, meet a therapist. So I'm just wondering here, is it that the issue or the depression is not seen too serious that prayer shouldn't handle?
Fantastic. That's a very good question. Now, when we say mental health, mental has to do with your mind, right? And like I said earlier, the causes of paternal postpartum depression are more social and psychological. So for instance, it's just like when people say, if I come to you now, Edgar, and I say, Edgar, I have severe malaria, what will you say to me? Will you say, go and pray?
No,
what will you say?
I would probably tell you to go to the hospital.
Thank you. So this answers your question. So if a man, for instance, maybe your brother says to you, look, since this baby arrived, I don't know, I'm struggling to bond with this baby, I'm so distant from my wife and all of that. The first thing people will tell you, and that's why I'm passionate about creating awareness on mental health as a concept, because the first thing the average Nigerian will tell you is, you're not praying enough. This is demonic, this is spiritual, right? There's nothing wrong with praying, but people must understand that when there's an illness of the mind going on, it's something that cannot be helped by the person experiencing it. So the same way you say to me, you have malaria, why don't you go see a doctor? Because it's beyond me, right? I need professional help, exactly. That's the same advice, that's the same sort of support
Right.
we should provide for dads who are struggling.
All right, so
as well.
for some men who are watching the program right now, who are probably going through this, what are some steps they can take to just feel better or feel more connected? Because some of the issues that you mentioned is withdrawal. And the moment they see their wives with their children, they just want to stay away, and they go into drinking and all sorts. What are some
Exactly.
steps they can take,
Exactly.
you know, to make them just feel more connected and to make them show that true appreciation which they have in their minds? As well?
Exactly. So, you know, I was on Facebook the other day, and a dad shares, he made a post, he said, we just welcomed the baby. We just welcomed our daughter, Ella, or something. So somebody else shares that post, a lady, and then she puts this right there. Who is the we? You didn't do a C-section because the wife had the baby. You didn't do a C-section. You didn't stay awake for 9 months. So who is the we? So this is one, in the course of this job, this is one area where dads they tend to struggle. Because when you go visiting, right, like when you go visiting a couple who just had a baby, you're likely to take gifts for the baby and the mom. But nobody remembers that.
Yes.
So one of the major struggles is that dads...
I'm even of the opinion that men should start having omugwo.
Yes,
Yes, men should start having omugwo.
Do you understand?
Special care for them as well.
Absolutely. Because...
I'm happy you are saying this thing. Men should be having omugwo.
Yes, men's lives matter, actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so because one of the areas where dads have told me during counseling sessions that they struggle the most is they feel like they're outsiders in all of this. You know, they don't know how to connect. You know, everybody comes, the whole attention is on mom and dad. So what I would say to men who are experiencing paternal postpartum depression right now is this. Number one, you're not alone. There are so many other men. In fact, research has also proven that, I didn't say this, research said that 50% of dads tend to or will experience postpartum depression, right? Especially dads whose partners are experiencing paternal postpartum depression. So you're not alone. That's number one. And number two, I will also advise there's something about solid social support, because you know there's a huge gap in the mental health field in Nigeria here. So most times we prefer self-help coping mechanisms, except in cases where whatever is present is severe. So, number one, you need to find another dad, preferably. Another dad
huge.
who has walked down that road. Because you see, when veteran moms talk to, you know, first-time moms who just had babies and all of that, and they say, look, this was what happened and everything, it kind of helps you feel better. So if you can find social support in your dad, in your brothers, in your religious heads,
family members as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming. It was brilliant to have you. For those of you that are home, it is also very important to note that you are not alone, and find that special person that you can always have in your family, in your life, that you can always share things with. But we're not done. We actually have something special for you in the kitchen.
Thank you.
Yes, and we want you to have a taste of that as well.
Great for my mental health.